Inside the Capitol, your weekly update on what's happening in Minnesota state government through a Catholic lens. This week, we're turning our focus to the Minnesota House and Senate tax bills. Both bills were passed this week, and as you can see, they're rather large bills. We're going to break them down a bit for you and focus on a few issues that the Minnesota Catholic Conference has been working on. We sat down with Representative Paul Marquardt, the DFL lead of the Tax Committee, to help us better understand how changes to federal taxes could impact state laws. Marquardt explains why Minnesota needs a tax bill.
If we absolutely didn't do anything, just totally ignored it, we'd see a tax increase on about 300,000 Minnesotans. We couldn't do nothing, and we couldn't totally conform, and conform means you link up and do everything the federal government, you conform to it. We couldn't do that either. Either scenario raises taxes.
Discussion to the A52 amendment. Representative Marquardt.
Representative Marquardt says that changes to federal taxes mean many Minnesotans would have more taxable income. Under Minnesota's old tax code, that higher income would mean being taxed more heavily by the state. That's an outcome he's trying to avoid with this new bill.
The main goal we're trying to do is to hold folks harmless. And by doing that, we have to kind of separate from the federal system that we've been linked to since 1986, the last major congressional reform.
One change to the federal tax code eliminated the child tax credit. Because of that change, Minnesota's bishops asked state legislators to include this deduction on the state level.
Many of our people who have larger families aren't going to get the same tax exemptions that they used to get in the federal tax code. And so we were looking for ways here in Minnesota that we could give a per-child tax credit so that people aren't punished for having large families.
To find out more about how Minnesota's bill deals with the federal change to the child tax credit, we met with the chair of the Senate Tax Committee, Senator Roger Chamberlain.
If we didn't have a personal exemption or some sort of credit, it would punish families with children. So either scenario, we had that in there.
There is also good news for parents of school-age children. Minnesota's bill follows a federal change allowing 529 education savings accounts to now be used for kindergarten through 12th grade tuition.
It's in our bill. I think it's I don't know if it's in the House bill. I had to look at the House bill, but it's in our bill because we believe it's a good thing, it's the right thing to do, and everything I try to do, I try to liberate families and people and individuals.
A final portion of the bill that we want to highlight is the charitable donations tax deduction. Many nonprofits are concerned that the higher standard deduction on the federal level means that people will lose their tax incentive to make charitable donations.
If you do the standard deduction on the federal side, and on the Minnesota side, you can still get a deduction, and it is 50% of all contributions over $500.
The clerk will take the roll on the bill.
Now that the House and Senate have each approved their versions of the bill, the two bills have to come together into a single bill before heading to Governor Dayton.
And whether or not it's signed or vetoed will all depend on the conference committee, how much they've worked with the governor, if the governor has said, yeah, I like this, and so forth.
So the question remains, can it all be accomplished before the session ends on May 21st?
2 weeks in legislative time, it's eternity, you know, it can go a long time.
We'll keep you updated on the tax bill as it moves through the process this session. We also have exciting news on another bill that hundreds of advocates have been following. This week, the Senate unanimously passed the Human Trafficking and Pornography Link Bill. Senate File 2554 would require the collection of information on the use of pornography in cases of human trafficking. The bill also sends funds to the Safe Harbor program, which assists minors who are victims of sex trafficking. The bill also needs to be passed by the Minnesota House of Representatives. That brings us to this week's action alert. Please contact your state representative and ask them to vote yes on the bill. Head to mncatholic.org/Action Center and click on the Human Trafficking and Pornography Bill banner. There, send a message to your state representatives via email, Twitter, Facebook, or you can call them. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Inside the Capitol, and make sure you share this video with your friends. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and make sure that you join us next week for another edition of Inside the Capitol.